Your Grace, good evening. I'm Taru Sugandha. With Lord Almighty's blessings, I consider it a very good fortune to have the opportunity to meet you in person today. I want to know from you how important is the Interfaith Week for the community?
Well, every year this helps us to focus again on the important work of understanding one another and learning how we can work together, particularly at a local level. So the Interfaith Week often is the time of particular initiatives which remind us of an ongoing obligation to understand and to work together. And it's particularly important today when in our society some people want to put forward the proposal that faith is a problem, that faith in God is a divisive thing in our society, whereas I believe the evidence and the experience tells us that faith in God, properly understood, and when explored between believers and when offered to a community, actually is part of the solution for a more cohesive society today.
Do you think the world is moving away from religion today?
Well, if you go up and down any street in Britain and through any village, there are signs of a vibrant religious life. And what is obviously quite new, comparatively speaking, is that those signs now include all the faiths, all the major faiths of the world. So I don't think the people of this country are, as it were, irreligious. But I do think there are voices that keep on insisting that to believe in God, to have a religious belief, somehow belittles the human person. And they can shout quite loud at times and create the impression that this is a society that has turned its back on God. But deep down, that is not true.
How can youngsters be made to get closer to their religion?
Well, I think there are a number of things that are important. One is that youngsters are encouraged to have a pattern and a rhythm in life. Now that comes from a sense of purpose. And religion often is one of those things, properly handled, that can help an individual have a sense of purpose and therefore have a pattern into the way they live. A second thing is good example. And it is true that the family is the primary place in which religious belief is shared or neglected. And when a family, as it were, disintegrates and loses focus on its religious heart, then probably those children will find life more difficult and will find it difficult to find again or return to a religious faith. And I think the third thing is that the religious communities, the different faiths, have to keep an eye on a real test. And a real test of the authenticity of a faith is the compassion that is shown to those in need. And I think those three things will help. If youngsters are helped to have a sense of purpose and therefore a pattern, if family life is, as it were, open and sharing of religious belief and not shy and diffident about it, and if religious communities really do see that they have a great deal to give to those who are suffering, and particular suffering in difficult economic times like we are now, then I think that will help young people to find their way in life.
How important is it to be spiritually aware of one's existence in this world and on this planet?
Well, sometimes it's said to me that if you get young people together and if you can create an atmosphere of quiet, if you can give them an icon and maybe a candle, then you will find within most young people a contemplative spirit, that they are ready to, as it were, pay attention to that part of their own being which is often drowned out by continual noise and continual activity. So I think that's one of the primary conditions for being aware of the spiritual dimension of our lives, that we have to create space and opportunity. And that means pushing back at times from the all-engaging, constant attentiveness to modern means of communication, to all the activities that can fill our heads. So there is a lot to be said for the ancient idea of one day in the week being put aside for the things of the Spirit. So that started, one of the great traditions of that, of course, is in the Jewish faith. And it is interesting to remember that the Jewish Sabbath protected people from the burden of slavery, so that they had a day when their work as slaves was stopped and that they could attend to their inner life, their family life, and the things of God. Now we have to ask ourselves, what are the things that enslave us today? And do we not need a day a week or some hours in the week when those things stop? That might be, dare I say it, the mobile phone. That might be, dare I say it, shopping. Maybe we need a break from these things to become more aware of the spiritual dimension of our lives and the joy and the satisfaction that comes from there in a way much more lasting than the pleasure we get from material possessions.
But in this world of material possessions and the need to acquire them to have a good life, how can one be spiritually connected and, close to one's religion?
It's an effort, and it needs a bit of, as I say, a pattern of life. One word that we use is a bit of self-discipline. We need to say, well, I will do that and I won't do that. We have to, as it were, make some choices. And the lovely thing is about a choice, that while we start off by realizing that we're saying no to some things, gradually we begin to learn that what we've said yes to is a richer vein of satisfaction and joy than constantly wanting everything and not being sure at all what is of lasting value. So the art of making a good choice and sticking to it is an important part of living a spiritual life.
Thank you so much.